Today I'm going to show you how to take rust off of iron, and I do it electrically. Sandblasting is so destructive to everything. After 20, 30 years of being an antique dealer, I very rarely sandblast anything anymore. This was taught to me by a person that does finely engraved guns and so on, and it's really non-destructive. The idea is that it's reverse electroplating, and the iron oxides are going to migrate to what could be considered as sacrificial material. So elements are great. There isn't any toxic kind of problems. So all I did was I was going down the street and I found an old sink. I put a drain on it so I can just take and drain the water with a hose. It's one of the few elements. The other thing is we need a DC power supply. That I'm using that 32 volt battery charger on the floor there. What I'm also going to do, in this case, all I did was I went to my junk pile and took some pieces of metal, iron, steel, mild steel in this case, and I used these brackets. They're bracket clamps, and as you can see, I've got these color-coded, so the positive side goes to these plates, and that is where the rust is going to travel. And what we're going to do is hook up the negative side is going to go on the piece of material that I want the rust removed from. In this case, for demonstration purposes, I've got this whole piece of, it's basically a piece from an aquarium stand. And I took this because I thought it was interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hook up the negative side to this and make sure that the electrical connection is good. I'm going to fill this tank with water, and in order for it to conduct even better, I'm using Arm & Hammer washing soda, not baking soda. It's a different compound. This is going to accelerate the thing. I've been using a tablespoon per gallon, and you can figure out yourself what works the best for you. More of this does not make it better. So we're facilitating the electrical action of this stuff. So one thing that's really nice about this is that once the rust is removed, all the action stops. And you can kind of watch on my battery chargers, the meter starts going down as you start getting close to the end. And one thing you can consider it to be a caution. There isn't much, but the only byproduct that I would be concerned about here is that hydrogen does come off of this. So we'll show you this bubbling action once we start the process, and that's hydrogen coming off. Hydrogen is flammable. It can be explosive in a closed area, so my basement's big enough, and I just use a fan to disperse it, but be cautious. And other than that, we'll show you what happens here. It's not a paint removal system, but another example I'll show you, I'm going to use an Elec-Trak wheel, is that it tends not to harm the paint. The water heats up, and it'll loosen the paint if you want to a little bit, but don't depend on it for paint removal. So in this case, what I'm going to show you a little later is, here's the sample. I'm going to hook this up electrically like I am doing with this mermaid, and I'll show you how it comes out, and something that I don't know the science of it, but the finish comes out so nice. It's almost like it adds to a sheen. It is not pockmarked like a sandblasting operation. It's especially good with sheet metal, where you don't want to sacrifice any good material, which absolutely happens with sandblasting. And so we'll show you how to do this also. And I've not tried a wheel before, but we'll all experiment together. Anytime. Okay, here's where we are now. I wanted to show you that the reason I have two plates in here is the more surface that you have, if you can kind of match the surface of the piece that you want to remove the oxidation from, it'll accelerate the process. So in this case, what I'm doing is I've wired two of these together, and I'll hang them as close to the piece as possible, but you know, just to make things so they don't have to travel as far. Do not touch those two. Do not touch the positive and the negative pieces. Okay, here's where we are. Here's the two plates. You can see that the positive wires are hooked to this and to the battery charger. They're in relatively close proximity to this stand. This is our little mermaid, and which I'll show you right here. Okay, and see, I had this running for about 1 minute, and already see how it's beginning to turn black. It's that process just starts going right away. Take a look here how it's cleaned up this whole backside, which was solid rust. Look at it already. It's turning that pewter cast iron color. It's the rust has already been removed here. By the way, you can use any power supply. I've even, just for demonstration purposes, have used one of those little telephone charger rechargers. So whatever that is, volt and a half or something, and very tiny amperage. And just I'm encouraging you to give this a try. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is going to my battery charger. Positive, negative to the piece. Don't let the items touch. It's okay if your positive side does. Some people are just doing this in a 5-gallon bucket, and they throw a piece of re-rod in, but I prefer a larger plate. It removes the rust faster. So, you know, technically the rusty part is, you know, is the negative, and it is called the cathode in this case. Anode are the parts where the oxides are going to, and they're the positive. So, and they're not actually sacrificial. What you'll find out is those plates actually build up. So I'm going to turn on my charger, and what happens is initially you'll see it becomes more and more efficient, but if you can see this on camera, right through here, this is all hydrogen breaking up right here, and the oxides are coming right off that mermaid. And what they're doing is they're headed right for these two plates. So, like I said, it's not destructive. It stops. This will not work on non-ferrous material, so it doesn't work on brass or anything else, by the way. It's the iron oxide it's after. So some people are also using for their anodes, their plates for the rust to drift to, they're using stainless steel thinking that they'll last longer. Don't do that. because what ends up happening is that creates a solution that's toxic. In this case, all that's going to happen, the first stage, after this first starts happening and it builds up to the point that it gets really bubbling, you'll see some mucky kind of stuff here, and it's almost like foam on a root beer. That eventually goes away, and this can easily be put right down the drain. I mean, what you've got here is some basically kind of rusty water and a little soap clothes washing solution. So don't drink it, but it's not poisonous. So that's what's happening. What we're going to do is let this bubble, and we're going to have a little lunch, and we'll show it to you briefly, and then for fun I'm going to try this wheel. We'll see how that works, and what I'm going to do is we'll show you some pictures of the stuff after it's done. So all it is water, DC power supply. Put your positive side on your so-called sacrificial metal, negative on the piece you want to derust, and it's amazing. Start with a small piece and get a feel for it, and pretty soon you'll be doing car frames. Okay, we went away for literally an hour, so look at all this mucky stuff here, and this is not, let me remind you, from the dirty sink. This is off of our mermaid here. Here's bubbles that are coming off. These are hydrogen bubbles breaking. So the thing here. What I'm going to do is, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to turn off the charger and just pull it out, and I'll show you what's happened in an hour. But like I said, you really do know when it's done, when it's when it stops bubbling. Here, I'm just gonna, let's just look and see if we can see bubbles any more clearly. Yeah, it's still boiling pretty well. So remember, there's nothing caustic here. There's, you know, I'm not hurting my paintbrush. I don't have to have rubber gloves on, although I imagine a lot of people would. Okay, now take a look at her. And so what's happened here is, you know, that some of you may have used de-rusto kind of paint finishes, and that they brag about how they turn black when they act. Well, that's, I don't know what's actually happening here chemically, but this black stuff, see, I can rub it and it doesn't come off on my finger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this cook a little longer, and I'll take a really mild 3M Scotch-Brite, like a white one, just basically buff it, and it's going to have, and I personally am going to leave this black finish down in showing off the scales and stuff like that. Then I'm going to do kind of a French polish on it. But here, all this root beer stuff is all the rust that's come off this. That's all happened in an hour, like I said. Look at here. I mean, it's completely clean. You know, there's a little tiny bit there. You can see I'm just kind of rubbing it off with my fingers, but how about that? Isn't that great? So there you go. Now I'm going to show you what an Elec-Trak wheel does. Like I said, it's not made for paint removal, but we'll see what happens to this thing and see. Sometimes the heat of the water, even though this isn't warm at all, Always, here's a tip also. It does consume a bit of water. The water does heat over the course of a little bit of time. In an hour it didn't heat this at all. But always make sure that the plates and this are covered with water. Here's what the thing looks like. This is after, and this is like literally 1 hour. So we haven't really worked very hard at this at all. But if you remember, here's her sister. There's 3 of these things. This is what the before and after. Take a look. 1 hour.
Wow.
So there you have it. What I'm going to do is we're going to empty out this tank and try a wheel for an Elec-Trak. But I also want to show you that on a little demonstration, I'm restoring a sweepster, and this was as rusty as those mermaids, and I just threw this in, and it has a ways to go if I wanted to, but basically here's another piece of tin. These are perfect examples of things to not use a sandblaster. There are some pits that are kind of deep in this, but a sandblaster is absolutely going to ruin this thing and remove so much good material. And the same here. So I haven't hit this with sandpaper, not even a Scotch-Brite. It was at least this rusty. Now it's really getting pretty smooth with just 150 grit emery cloth. This thing's going to be really smooth, and just a light coat of sandable primer, and it's going to look like new. On this, most of this will come out that good. Right here there are some deep pits, but the advantage of this process is it will clean out the bottoms of those pits. So 3M, I know, makes a product for body work. It's a skim coat. I personally use JB Weld, and mix it up a little loose. Use a putty knife, go like this after it's clean, of course, and that stuff never pops out. And you can sand it flush. And like I said, after years of experience, do not believe in sandblasting this kind of stuff especially. So it's way too harmful. So we're going to empty out this stuff so we can see how much comes off that wheel. Okay, now we're getting into Elec-Trak parts. Let's see how they do. So here we go. I've got negative to the wheel. Like I said, I use those brackets because they've got a little dimple in them and they're sharp, and they will give me a good positive, I should say, a thorough or a effective electrical joint there. All of the positive is on the plates that I showed you earlier. I'm going to fill this with water now. I wanted to show you just before I did that. And basically in this much water, I'm kind of just eyeballing it, and I'm putting in a cup full of washing soda. So, and that's probably much more than I need actually, but that's what I did. So we'll fill this with water and see if we can get some bubbles coming off this thing, and I will show it to you when it's done. Okay, what we're going to improve the thing a little bit. Okay, I've got the Elec-Trak wheel in there. It's all wired up, and I'm getting the soda. I'm mixing it into solution first. It's got a kind of a funny characteristic. You know, if you use it in your laundry, even if you just pour it in there, it mixes with water, and it's almost like it crystallizes. So we want to give it a little more of a a chance to mix into the water. So I just got the water hot in the microwave and mixed into this, and so we put it in the solution. So, okay, there's that, and we're gonna now just turn make sure everything's wired right. And I'm gonna turn on the battery charger. Okay, there it is. Oh yeah, right away. Let me get my pointer out here. Bubbles are coming out right along on the rim, and
Wait a minute, oh, there we are.
And from my experience, the release points on these on the hydrogen as it comes off is on the sharp edges, and whatever it is that you're doing, you'll find that. And also, like I said, in spite of the fact of the tank being clean and so on, there's not really any muck around. Very quickly, this crap starts building up and occurring. So I don't know what's happening, but it definitely is. It comes up and it will look like swamp water in no time. What I'm interested in is in this experiment. I know it's going to pull the rust off, but I don't know what it's going to do to the paint, which is fine. I'd just soon remove the paint anyway. But I can tell you that if I took this to a sandblaster, I'm sure most of your experience with this is that he's going to blast the blazes out of it. This area that's rusted, he's going to go after, and it's going to be deeply pitted. You know, you can pay extra and have some media blasting done, or you know, whatever you want, walnut shells or whatever the media is. But you might just well do this at home. It's virtually free. You know, there's literally a few cents in electricity. You can walk away from it. You know, it's pretty safe. You know, keep kids away from it, obviously, but do a little experimenting, and it'll work great. The more I do it, the more I'm wildly enthusiastic about this process. What we're going to do is, after we turn the camera off, I'm going to let this run, and we'll get back to you and show you what kind of time, how long it takes to do this wheel. On the, I'm running, my charger is running 32 volts at 10 amps, to give you an idea. And like I said, different outputs, you know, will have different speeds. So do your own experimenting. Check it out on Google and see what everybody else is doing. I can tell you from my experience. Where we left off is that I put a Elec-Trak wheel in the solution, and basically it has been cooking for 8 hours, and we'll take a look. I had a sneak peek, and like I said, this is a rust removal process, but there's several things over the course of just making this film that I want to bring to your attention. One is that initially I let these electrical connections be down in the water. It's fine, it doesn't create anything dangerous or anything, but it's inconvenient because they'll build up with the rust that we're removing. So as a result, I hung my plates a little higher to keep the electrical connections out. It doesn't matter on the negative lead, because the rust is moving away from that. And so the other thing is that because it does do a bit of paint removal, I have been putting hot water in just as hot as it comes out of the hot water heater. So this process then continues to heat the water, and I think if anything it softens the paint, which I'm after. So I'm going to turn off the power, and let's just take a look here. And so you can already see how much paint has been removed. So here, take a look. Personally, I'm thrilled. I think that I'm going to just remove the electrical connection. And you know, this has a ways to go, but for the sake of getting this film done, I'm going to call it quits right here. So here's what it is, and a Scotch-Brite's going to remove all of this this paint, and it's going to end up to be a surface just like this. Here's the other side. Oh yeah. Now, oh yeah, take a look here just with my fingernail. I'm going to be able to just use a Scotch-Brite without any scrubbing. Oh yeah, this is going to come right off. So this is going to be just done without any work really to speak of. And it's going to be just like the day it was manufactured. Great. Where a process like this really is helpful on a wheel like this, or if you were restoring a car with wire wheels, wow. What they can do at best with sandblasting or media is that they can blast stuff away that they can reach. But that's all. So when you paint something that's been blasted, basically what you're doing is encapsulating the rust at a certain point. In a process like this, what's happening is down in these joints, obviously this rim and this was made in separate pieces, then welded together. There's all kinds of hidden rust in there. And by doing that, can you imagine how many joints there are on a wire wheel? Sucking that rust out of the whole thing is going to be great. You know, at a certain point, if this doesn't just brush right off, I'm going to just put a little stripper on there, rinse that off, and finish it up in here, and it'll be great. It'll be just like new as far as I'm concerned. So if you remember, here's the sister to this. This is what we started out with. Same condition, it's the same set of wheels. That much paint was on it. And after 8 hours and virtually no investment, it's pennies in electricity and water and a little bit of washing soda, here's what you get. So, you know, it's going to work great on all kinds of projects, and I've used this for several years now, and I like it. I couldn't resist showing you just one more thing that this would be good for. You can recognize easily that this is a battery box and fender set from a large frame Elec-Trak. Now, what I did was I just threw some water-based stripper on this and stripped most of the paint off of it and just blasted it off with a pressure washer. Now that I saw what happened with those wheels, I think what I would have done is to just dip it in there and boil out the rust first and then go after it with stripper. But where this process is going to be just great is I know that a lot of you have experience where the rust between the joint here, it's spot welded, And moisture builds up underneath this joint and it rusts. And even when you're really careful to clean everything up, give it a nice prime coat and everything, that rust still creeps out of there and so on. So I've got an old plastic stock tank, and I'm gonna dip this whole assembly and run it the way I did those wheels, and I'm sure that will soften what paint there is left. And I'll use a little stripper and just a Scotch-Brite pad, and I might just do a few more minutes of this rust thing, and it'll be ready to wash and prime and paint. Also, it won't take long to just take some 2x4 and piece of plywood and some roofing membrane to build a tank for this frame. And I know everybody's got experience at this kind of thing, combination of battery acid and rust and pitting and so on. And this again is a good way to not sandblast, and that's what I'm promoting, is not sandblast. So it'll be very easy to build a tank for this, and I'm going to put this in. I'll pressure wash it just to get it clean, but I'm going to put this in the tank just the way it is. Basically remove as much rust as I want to. See if it removes the paint, and once the rust is gone, if nothing else, I'll put some paint stripper on it, blast it off, and if there's any more rust, I'll treat it one more time. But the advantage to this process is turn the switch on and walk away, and it works by itself. So it's a great process, and Elec-Traks can benefit greatly.